This. Oh, my that one.
You're low.
Huh?
Cheers for Sean.
Audio.
The audio,
I wouldn't worry about that. Sideways.
Welcome.
Welcome to another episode of the Caribbean Edge. We're excited to have this discussion tonight and to welcome each of you. I know we've posted all the topics and everyone has been chiming in advance, so we definitely appreciate that. Welcome, I'm Dawn Wilson.
Sean Spalding.
Shauna Whittingham.
And Keith Heron.
Well, thank you. And tonight's topic is about taking a stance.
Sorry, Dawn, before you get into that, so we're streaming Facebook Live as usual,
Yes.
but we also have a huge following who don't participate on social media, and they've been asking each of us to stream on YouTube. So we're very proud to say that tonight we're streaming live for the very first time on YouTube, and you will see that going forward.
Exactly. So taking a stance is very important because at some point in our lives we take a stance for something. Hopefully we do. I know I've done it as well, and I'm sure everyone on the panel has as well. Using a platform to make a difference, which goes to the heart of the Caribbean Edge as well, and being the voice of the unspoken and just being different, getting the messages out there, having conversations, and healthy conversations are always important. We want to recognize as well a couple of people that have been on our show previously who have taken a stance in one form or the other. You know, we've had Paula Haas come on the show to talk about cancer and her journey, sharing it to make a difference in someone's life. We've had Andrea Hall come on the show, thank you guys, to talk about sickle cell and her daughter's foundation, bringing awareness in the society. So that's her personal stance. My daughter Jay Jeffrey has been on the show, and she's talked about being different as a young child from middle school, being 5'8", and how she got through that journey and realized that being different is also acceptable because there's a huge world out there. So using her voice. And our last show, which we had Janice on, we talked about baby Zoe and the deportation process of her mom being separated from her. So she's also taking a stance. So we thank all our guests that have come on the show to share their journey and the stance, because we want to share that with you to have those truthful conversations.
Absolutely. And thank you so much to all our past guests, and we look forward to the future ones as well.
Definitely. Now, taking a stance, there are two people that have stepped out and taken a stance, which is our topic tonight, which is Colin Kaepernick as well as Serena Williams. So let's start with the panel. What's the stance that he has taken? Let's start with Colin.
Well, my stance?
No, Colin. let's for viewers that may not be familiar, let's give a little history on what he's standing for.
Oh, my stance is more drug and stuff in public. So but yeah, with Colin Kaepernick, first of all, I applaud what Nike did with supporting them. As a matter of fact, I saw something today which I think almost carried my appreciation for Nike another level higher, which is they did an ad for Caster Semenya. This is the athlete, the female athlete. She's a runner. I don't remember what race she runs, but she was facing a lot of criticism in the last Olympics because she, to some people, had more masculine features or something like that effect, and they were saying that she shouldn't be able to compete. And she's all a woman, you know what I mean? If she doesn't appeal to what you think a woman should look like, then that's another thing. But Nike fully supported her and did an ad about her, and I fully endorsed that. That was great. But sorry, I didn't mean to digress. But about Colin Kaepernick, I think it goes without saying, I completely support what he's doing, and I reject the notion that it has anything to do with patriotism. Actually, let me rephrase that. I think it has everything to do with patriotism. So let me go to the other side. Because what he's doing is being a patriot.
Right.
That's what a patriot does.
Yeah.
You know, so if that is the case, if that's the argument, then great. If you're saying he's going against veterans, or going against the country, or going against the flag, I think it's completely ridiculous. Frankly, I think it's shit. But go ahead.
So tell us how you really feel. So as far as Colin is concerned, I commend him, I salute him, and that he's taken a stance, and that's what I'm about. Take a stance, and you know what? You don't always have to stick with it. Something might happen over the course of time that might change your perspective, right. But take a stance and speak up. It is our social responsibility. So many people just sit back and watch injustice, or watch things happen that go against their moral compass, and they say they don't have the courage, they don't have the oomph, they don't, you know, to say something about it. So I commend anybody who does, and I also have a lot of respect for people who will listen to all sides of the argument and conversation, and maybe even have a change of heart. That's okay. You don't have to shove your philosophy down anybody's throat, but absolutely take a stand. So I commend that action. Of course, Nike, on the other hand, they're a business which you cannot romanticize. They're about making money. Right. You know, I certainly don't want to make this conversation tonight about Nike, but I do respect them as a corporation for backing somebody who had the courage to speak up against specifically the NFL.
Right.
Regardless of the motivation. It could be they saw it as a good business move. I really don't care.
Right.
But they
did it. And it's historical that they did it at such a large
I mean, right after they did it, their stock went up, what, 31%?
It dropped.
Well, it dropped at first, but then it spiked. It went up 31%. It probably is even higher now. So they're strategic.
Oh, yeah.
You know, don't get me wrong. But again, I support wholeheartedly taking a stance.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I feel the same way about taking a stance. You know, the problem that we have here is it's just everybody's opinion overflowing into other people's opinion.
Right.
And this is all opinionated, and you have the right to your opinion. Of course, you can think what you want, you can fall for what you want, or you can stand for what you want. But the decision has to be made by you initially as to what you're going to stand for, where you draw the line, where you say, well, okay, I'm not going to take any more of this. This is where I stand, and I move forward from here. Now, what he did is, like, it meant so much to him that he said, look, I know I am what everybody fantasizes about, you know, being that NFL player, pro athlete, making all this money and so forth. He said that don't mean anything to compare to the atrocities that are going on now. So he took that stand, and he never wavered, and that's what I like about him and where he is right now, that he never wavered at all with his stand.
Right. So his stance is against police brutality and justice for minorities, and especially, you know, African Americans. So he took a stance, and at first it started out with him sitting down, and of course he didn't get that recognition for him doing that. And then at some point it changed where he started kneeling down, him and another player.
Well,
so now he's unemployed, right?
Well, actually, he actually went to, he spoke with someone. Well, someone wrote to him.
A veteran, right?
You know, in the military, wrote to him and said, listen, this, you know, I think what you're doing is wrong. So he said, well, you know what, rather than just going out and bashing Colin Kaepernick, let me have that talk with him. And when he understood what he was doing, he said, well, bro, there's a better way. This is what the military does. And actually, when I was at high school at JC,
and soccer players, when people get hurt,
they normally take a knee to show more reverence as to what they're doing. So that even shows a little bit more reverence to the flag.
Right.
And so I really don't get it. People are just putting a label on something that they want to and attach a certain stigma to it, and then everybody follows that. So I think there's just disruptors. You know, in Jamaica, we used to have the guy walk around, and as soon as MC a fight, he used to be the provocateur or the instigator that used to come, hot party, touch a button. It's like as soon as they say, oh, another opportunity for us to drive this in our direction. No matter what it is, we're going to drive it in our direction. So as far as I say, he did the right thing. He got someone from the military to tell him, look, this is what we do to show, so take the knee. And now he takes the knee, and even then, with the help of someone from the military, he's still being an outcast or looked down upon.
Yeah, he's without a job, right?
Right. So he's been blackballed by the NFL, so to speak. But he has gained so much support on social media, and people are really stepping up and thanking him for taking a stance for something he believes in that a lot of people didn't have the courage to do. And I personally feel that ad is so impactful.
Oh,
I don't even know why
Yeah.
people have a problem with it.
It's such a great ad.
Like, for people that are open, I mean, this ad is beautiful.
You know what? If I decide to break bread with you today, I can guarantee you, if we have a bread and we'll cut it up in four quarters.
We want
And it should,
See, somebody
and we share it up. I guarantee you, there's going to be tons of people who are going to have a problem with it. Oh, why you sharing bread? Why is not this? What kind
Why
of bread is
Shauna
that?
get
Everything. Why she get 2 pieces? But guess what? It's our bread and we
That's
share it
great.
accordingly.
That's great. You
Exactly.
have opposing views.
Exactly. People
fine.
have a right to their opinion. You still go ahead with what you want and push forward what your objective is.
Now, the problem shouldn't be with the opposing view. It's about not being willing to listen
Right.
to an
Right.
opposing view.
Right.
And I think that's where we're headed to now. You know, we're getting to a point where it's a tipping point. We're listening to opposing views, and outside of the Colin Kaepernick issue or some other issues that I'm sure you'll bring up, Dawn. But we are now looking for victimization, and anybody that opposes that kind of victimization, then we start to look at them like they're an ogre, or they should be fired, or they should lose their job, or they should sometimes go to jail because they don't agree with what I believe, or what, in my sense, what most of us believe.
But Sean, that brings up a very good point, which is the attitude that concerns me about what's happening. The atmosphere right now is, and that ties into another topic, which it needs to be another show, and that's bullying. The minute you disagree with me, you're wrong, you're an outcast, you're an evil and cruel person. I mean, where is that level of emotional intelligence that you have one perspective and I have one perspective, and from where you stand, your perspective is real.
So you're saying that bullying is being overused, or is there we're applying the moniker of bullying to too wide a swath?
Agreed. So our the person, I don't know what to call him, in charge is basically saying that that protesting shouldn't be allowed. That's a dictatorship attitude. That's a bully. To say that because you don't agree, somebody's doing something that you don't agree with, that all of a sudden you shouldn't be allowed to do it. It's almost like lock her up, lock him up, shut him down because he or she disagrees with me. That's bullying.
Well, you know what?
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Well, you know what? There's always what I call a corner banter. So depending on which corner you're going, there's going to be a certain point of view. And normally the clique normally wants to go with each other. So they're going to listen to each other's view, and they're all going to be in unison with whatsoever the major view is there on that corner.
Yeah.
No, I'm just going to hit it from a personal level. No, I don't like too much war and things. So most of the time when I get into a confrontation or something else, what I tend to do is try to, I'll give my point, but after a while I'm like, hey, you know what? All right, it's really not worth the argument. So I sort of back off.
You pick your back.
You know what I mean? But then there comes a certain point where you say, well, you have to stop being a nice guy now because this means too much to me. So you're either going to hear my views and I don't care what you said, and we're going to go off to the bluster. I wonder if the what you want, the point you want to get across, even goes across faster. But when your passion comes out, sometimes you even lose what you want to. Your message.
You lose the message is lost.
That ties right into Serena and her message that she was trying to get across. Did it get lost because of the emotions and the sternness of which it you know what I mean? Because sometimes even think about your own personal relationships. If you are trying to get a point across to your significant other and you start raising your voice or cursing bad words or whatever, that message gets lost. They stop hearing you. And
when
we
they-
as black people get labeled so often as an angry black person. And
So should we acquiesce? Should we change?
No.
no, I think we need to get smart.
Okay, so
Right.
what way call smart?
So smart to me is, it's interesting, I saw how Mr. Rogers handled racism, and what he did was invite a black person on his show. And when they said black people couldn't swim in the pool, remember Dorothy Dandridge and they drained the pool when she put her foot in the pool? And so, you know, it's so my opinion, it starts with education, but in my opinion, black and brown people need to educate themselves first and foremost, know the rules, and you can play any game as long as you follow the rules, you know. I think you should absolutely take a stance, but I think you need to make sure that you're eloquent in delivering that. I think people need to get into politics, get into law, get into medicine, and pave their own way and not be subjected to other people telling them what to do. So you need to...
Okay, so this is her profession, right? This is her, Serena Williams.
Yeah.
This is her profession. This is what she does. This is what she's done her entire life, right?
She's passionate about it.
She's passionate. She's
Right.
a sportswoman. Anyone that has done is sports oriented or played any kind of sports can connect with her. I watched that video. That woman handled herself well.
I think so.
Initially. So what she did was the coach called her out for
The umpire.
the umpire called her out because the coach was coaching, which they all do, right?
But against the rules.
She says against the rules. She says she did not see her coach,
Doesn't
which
matter.
I can understand that because if you're playing any sport, you are so intense, so involved, especially if you think you're going to lose the match. The pressure you're under is to win. You're not thinking about your coach. So yes, the coach was wrong for coaching, but they all do it. So
They all do it.
So what she was really upset about was the fact that the coach called her for cheating, called her out for that. Her words were, "I will never cheat. I will rather lose a game than cheat. I have a daughter." To me, that was so significant because she knows one day her daughter is going to see
So
that she was
you
called
relate to
out for
that.
that. And I've not seen the media cover that. They're covering everything else but that. She made it a point to say, "I am an ethical player."
But I'm going to give you a rebuttal, a different view to that.
Okay.
Because some people say, no, well, she's bringing this is the sport, and these are the rules.
Right.
And she's bringing her family and her emotions into it. And that is another view.
Right.
I'm not saying it's right, not saying it's wrong. There are so many different views. So the moment she starts to say, hey, wait a minute, who cares about your child and who cares about you?
She does.
I know,
Right.
but I'm telling you another view.
Right.
So there will be someone who will say, we have nothing to do with that tonight, we don't care about that. You did not play right, or you are cheating, and they want to go back to the black and white, the rules. So this is the thing. You remember when I was saying there's going to be different views? And until we sit back and I said, Because I'm going to tell you right now, and I love you, all the people out there. I love you, Andre. I love you, Mindy, everybody. Because outside of what we do here, just for the viewers today, we all get calls throughout the entire week about the show. And we have chances to listen to what Andre had to say. Andre, I think, sent something to us with a whole bunch of the rules. And then he went on to what McEnroe did, and some other people, and different between male and so forth, and so did Mindy, and some other people reach out to me, and I, different views. So come back to the village, man, and listening to the village again, and getting different views and so forth, and not being too hasty to jump ahead and just be bullheaded with what your views or your opinion is. And I say, well, you know what, I never thought about it that way, but okay, but this is my view still. You know, because this is what I saw. And now I have to do some fact checking and say exactly what is right and wrong. Now just think about the umpire. He's making split second decisions, and so is the players.
It's high pressure.
So there you go.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is absolutely correct. Everybody's making this. Nobody's wrong, guys. Calm down.
But
Let's
she
work it
doesn't
out.
want to be accused of cheating.
Something
And
she was
once that took place, now you're inside the player's head. Despite the fact whether she thought she was going to win or lose the game, your game is impacted once you are upset.
True. Okay, so I mean this is in the nicest way possible. I don't care. I don't care how many kids you have. Your role as a parent has no bearing on your morality, has no bearing on your ethics. I know a lot of parents that are horrible. I don't care if you got kids. You should keep that. I agree with you. To me, it has no bearing on the game. You brought it up, had no place in the game. With that being said, I empathize with Serena because of what took place after the game. What took place within the game, I don't think she was picked on. I don't think she was marginalized. I think she was treated the same way the guys are, or whatnot, right? And she got pissed off. She threw the racket down. I don't care. She threw the racket down. As long as she's willing to pay the fine, this is what happens. She's not the first person to do it. I don't care. I don't care about that. These things happen in sports. I'm not going to judge her because of that. And I don't think she's a hooligan because she did it. She's reacting like an athlete. Exactly. And some athletes are restrained. Yeah. Some react. One is not better than the other. There's just different ways they handle it. But they go on and they keep playing, right? Okay, so she lost some points, which, the argument can be made, it really impacted and swayed towards Osaka, but whatever. My problem is, after the match, she was portrayed as this villainous person and angry, and the cartoons, and I take offense to that, because she didn't respond any differently than anyone else. Right. Well, it's because she's intimidated. It goes back to when she wanted to wear the jumpsuit. She wanted to wear a catsuit when she was playing ball. It's been done before. It was done by a white woman in the 60s. It's been done before. So why is it always, why people always seem to be threatened when Serena does something, or even when she doesn't do something, when she shows up because she's intimidating? So what? Get over it.
So I share some of those same sentiments. Some of the rules of the game I just don't friggin' understand. Like, why do you have a coach if the coach can't coach? But that's separate and apart. So I get it. Have any of you ever been accused of doing something that not only are you not doing, but you stand firmly against what the person is? That angers you. That upsets you.
I relate.
So my whole position, quite frankly, if I had anything to do with this sport, I think that outrage, at the end of the day, it's a game. And some people take the games way too serious. So I think as a good sportsman, a good sportswoman, you conduct yourself a certain way. But I get it. You get their emotions. Here's where I stand for justice. Whatever you are going to sit a coach them do or don't do when it comes to certain players, keep that even, keep that fair, because people are hiding behind the fact that this same Ramos fellow hasn't charged or taken points from other players, whether they be male or female, because I never sit a coach. So first of all, it makes the rule asinine to begin with, because you are watching the game, not the friggin' coach. So they need to actually take a look at that, and hopefully this brings awareness to that, okay? And penalize players for what they do or don't do, not what their coaches are doing versus not what they're doing. All I'm saying is what is good for one needs to be good for the other. You can't be charging a woman because she took off her shirt even though she's wearing a sports bra just to turn her shirt, when men are out there taking off the shirt all the time.
Well, she didn't get a violation.
She got a warning? I believe she got a violation. We have to look that up. I believe she got a violation. All I'm saying is, and here's the thing, there's some level of subjectivity because it's a person and their decision. So I get that. But and with all due respect, Ramos followed the rules. He did in this situation. The problem is when it is applied and the severity in which the rules are stuck to, depending on which player is on that court. And I'm just going to say, there is, and you can check the history, there is an injustice when it comes to females, and there is an injustice when it comes to black and brown people. And I'll just put all I'm saying in terms of them giving warnings versus taking a point versus taking a game.
Well, you know what? I have an opinion on that also, and it's a fight and it's a growth, and the fight has to go on. So you have your opinion that you're giving right now, and your opinion is strong. Keep your opinion going, because it was the same thing when we needed to vote. It's the same thing when black people needed to go and eat in an establishment and don't have to sit in a certain area or have to drink from a water cooler or sit a certain place in a bus. It was the same when we could go to integrate school. It was the same, and people have to keep the fight going. You always have to fight, and you can't stop. So what you're doing with your opinion, this is why I would always go back to what I was saying before. Your opinion is important, and you bring it with bluster, with a little bit of no, I'm not going to stop, because that is what is important, right? Just to let you know right now, Bradley Chastain did the same thing. All of a sudden, imagine, U.S. men's soccer team couldn't win a World Cup, couldn't even qualify. The U.S. ladies went and won the World Cup, and the goal that she used to win the World Cup was so elating that she took off her top. She had on her sports bra and slide across the field. Men do it all the time, but they don't have any sports bra. They take off everything. You know, the other guy jump on top of them, all kind of thing, go on. But the moment this lady take off her top and wave it in the air, oh my God, it's a sports bra. You see less when somebody got to beach and wear thongs and the little triangle thing. So I don't know. So it's not popular for both, you know. It's the same thing going on right now.
Yeah.
So yes, the fight had to be there.
Right.
Martin Luther King didn't stop his march. Medgar Evers didn't stop his protesting. Black Panthers didn't stop feeding. You know, everybody have to stick to it until something changes. And Kaepernick is sticking to it, which is so admirable. You know, he knows what he had to lose. He had to lose a lot more than some of us. Yeah. So, and he said it meant that much to him.
Do you think there are instances though where we go too far, where we take a stance or we feel marginalized, where we're not really taking the intent into consideration? We're just taking the impact into consideration. When somebody, all right, so let me ask you a question, right? Suppose you saw a gentleman walk in here and he looks Asian, right? He looks Asian because his eyes lead you to believe, they're slanted, lead you to believe that he's Asian. Whatever characteristics there are. And you ask him, where are you from? And he says, oh, from Tamarack. He's like, no, like, no, where are you from though? Right?
I won't let it go.
Okay, Florida. No, I mean like, where you from? Because that happens, right? That happens to, it happens a lot to yeah, it happens a lot to,
okay,
especially in Florida.
From?
Yeah, but they don't come out and say that until later on. And you have people that would take offense to that. Now, do you think if the line of questioning went in along those lines, is that something to be offended by?
No, in my opinion, no. No. As a matter of fact, if you have a certain amount of pride, yeah, go ahead.
If it were me personally, I wouldn't be offended, but I can understand and appreciate why people are offended by it. Because we live in a global society. And people need to understand that all kinds of people come from every which where, and you cannot assume that you know where a person is from or what their ethnicity is, and quite frankly, it shouldn't matter.
But you know what? It's a trick question I shouldn't answer because it's a yes or no answer because it depends on the root of the question.
And the question that is posed after you make that statement, somebody can always come around and say, well, would you ask that of a white male that came in the room? Would you ask them that?
Well, people ask me in a different way. Like they'll say, you don't look Jamaican. It's more of a statement. And I'm like, yeah, I look Jamaican. What do you think a Jamaican looks like? So I think people are more, as the years go by, people are seeing how society itself is mixing. There's so many interracial.
It's 2018, who don't realize this.
So if someone gets offended, to Shauna's point, I can see them doing it because your upbringing and your culture plays a role in the decisions you're making now. But a lot of people also will not be offended by it in this day and age either.
I'm going to give you a job. I have someone who one time I had a contract working with somebody, and I employed a few people to work with me on this contract. So they all show up at different times, and one person said to the other, one group of people said to the other, well, one person out of one group said to the other group, well, I don't know if it's your culture, and people tend to use culture, but we know what I mean. I don't know if it's your culture, but we try to start things on time, and so I had to go in and break up everything right away. I said, look, everybody getting paid the same thing, everybody show up at this time. I say when it goes, don't even start this riff. But how is it that you're going to come and...
Because Caribbean people are always late. Anyway. Yeah, so Mindy and Edwards is saying hi from South Carolina. And then Michael, thank you for chiming in. He says the Williams sisters have always been willing to take a stand. They argue for equal prize money for women. Kaepernick stands on kneeling during the national anthem has been misrepresented but has been open to dialogue about, I can't see the rest of the comment, Michael, sorry. And he's saying kudos to Nike to bringing light to the fact that it's okay to be different, just do it. Hi Trisha Chung saying, Foster saying hi. The umpire, this is Michael Hill again, the umpire was acting in the guideline of the rules and regulations. We agree with that, Michael, yes, we realize that, and all of us have our moments. Anybody have a racket? I want to break a racket. I know, you see how that racket, you know how powerful that woman is? She got so, and the racket.
Rocking up
You see it?
I definitely understand. I am passionate about it. And I know you said you don't care that she has kids. But I honestly understand being called out. You don't even have to be a professional athlete. Someone calls you out your name. Someone, you stand for ethics and honesty and fighting for women.
But people cheat.
But she wasn't.
People do.
So she was
let me ask you something.
of cheating.
But if her coach is, and he said he was coaching her.
Right.
If he's coaching her, that's
But
cheating.
at the moment, put yourself in her moment.
Yeah.
She did not see her coach
Yeah, nobody
according
can
to
swear to that.
her.
No, according to her.
According to her. So I'm going to take her at her word, and the passion of which she defended herself, that she was not watching her coach and she was not cheating.
But an umpire can't take her passion with.
Well, I know the rules of the game.
Yeah.
I'm saying I understand her position as a woman being accused of cheating, and she was passionate to defend herself and say, I was not cheating, and I will never want to be accused of cheating because I would rather lose a game. And she's thinking as a mother, one day my daughter will see that I was accused of cheating in a game, win or lose.
Is it likely though?
And she didn't curse, she didn't use profanity. I watched that and she was very respectful.
I get your point. I get your point. But is it?
Passion.
I get your point. But is it possible that she cheated and she used that to enhance her point?
Well, it could be, but
also, right?
Right.
Okay, so you can't take it into consideration.
I can take
only black and white.
Her word into consideration.
The umpire can't.
Again, I go back to it's a stupid ass rule. It is the only game where a coach can coach. Which other game a coach can coach?
Is supposed
It's golf. The caddy is telling.
They need to change the rule. How long has this rule been?
It's ridiculous.
We need to take a stance to turn over that.
So let's separate that. Okay, so let's separate that. The rule don't change it, so we have to go by the rule until the rule changes.
Right, but what I'm saying is I can understand
her
defending her truth in that moment as an athlete, as a woman, as a man,
I can understand.
To say she went to the coach and said, the umpire,
Well,
I would rather lose the game.
Well, I understand. I'm still taking a point.
But wait, since you want to continue this, because usually as I understand it, I don't claim to be no tennis buff, but as I understand it, if the umpire sees the coach coaching, they usually give a warning.
A soft warning.
Right. And and even and there have been instances where the coach has given multiple warnings. That's when the coach is supposed to behave him or herself. You know, and that's whether the player is paying attention to the coach or not. And I do understand that because of Serena's emotion, he had some emotion in it too because of how she spoke to him or how she reacted to it. She was passionate about it, and I get it. I do not. The last thing I want is for you to accuse me of something that I am so opposed against. And some people use it in the way you're suggesting, Sean. Absolutely, where sometimes it's when you touch a calm and you say the truth why people flare up, right? So I get that.
Thou don't protest much.
So here's the thing. There are refs, there's umpires, there's all different people who officiate games, right? First of all, I just want to say, Mindy, you're not going to evacuate. South Carolina, something coming your way. But anyway, we'll get back to that. They're human beings. So here's the thing. In NBA games, NFL games, boxing, whatsoever, there are people who write in and say, look, this guy is too this way, or this girl is too this way, or this umpire, or this ref is this too, you know. So they normally have a person that they normally, on the votes, normally put into I don't know, when the penalty is being played, when NBA finals is being played, when soccer World Cup is being played, and these guys have to be at the top of their game. Now, this is a finals,
Right.
and this person that they feel was at the top of his game. But you know, after all these marginal things that he said, you never know what happens in the future.
Sorry,
But
what are you talking about?
all umpires, all refs, all officiators, just anybody that's here, they're human beings and they're going to make mistakes and they're going to have their tendencies towards certain things. And the
Even more
protest has to
reason
go
why
on. Right.
that rule is stupid. How is the
Right.
umpire watching the game and paying attention to what the coach is
But
doing?
here's the thing, there are going to be some umpires who will look for those things.
They
And there will be
look at
some.
certain things.
Right, and then after a while, when the top players start to see them, it would look, never put this guy, good enough, the sanctioning boards are not going to put these guys in this position. So the protest has to go on.
Right.
This guy's idea to have to go on, or whatever you want to say, has to go on. But it doesn't mean that he wasn't following the rules according to the best of his ability. No, if a person is not doing a job at your workplace properly, well,
Coach and develop a soft
No, you don't kick them, you don't fire them immediately.
You give them a soft warning.
So you are going to give the ref a soft warning?
That's what he was supposed to do.
So are you going to give the, I'm
Yeah,
talking
the
about
option
officiating
to
now,
that.
are you going to give that ref a soft warning and say you can do another finals? Or do you think he should do another one?
I would give him a warning. I'd be like, yo, what? Again, it's somewhat subjective, right? So it's hard, and that's your point. But I would say whatever you're going to be doing for one person, you need to do it for all, because that's where people get in trouble. What you do for one employee, you need to do it for all. Otherwise, anyway, I have a question for the panel, and I have a question for the panel and also the audience. When do you take a stance? What is it that would get you to the point to, you talked about, is it worth the battle? Is it worth the fight? What is it that you're passionate about? What do you take a stance on? What are you going to speak up on? The next election?
The next election, definitely. I vote, and I think it's more important after the last election that we all go out and vote and encourage our friends and family, to go out and vote. For me personally, what I'm always passionate about is kids and making a difference in their lives. I currently, with the separation of the kids at the border, is something I'm passionate about and would definitely take a stance on.
It's a question. What I want to take a stance on?
Yes.
I mean, I'm a very opinionated person.
Alright, unless you talk
There's a lot of things you want to think. But, I guess the best thing, the action that I can take are, just speak up when I think injustice is being done. I think when there's any kind of marginalization of any sect of people or any one person or what have you, then it needs to be speak up. You need to speak up. For bad people to win, it just takes for good people not to do anything. So I think we need to be active. I think we need to make our voices heard, especially just because we're in election cycle now. I think that's, it's uber important for us to make our voices heard. But I think also that we really need to be cognizant of the identity politics that is being played right now in the country. Actually, in the world, it's what's happening right now. It's like we're changing. We're really latching on to a kind of identity politics where we're coming together, but not for common humanity. We're coming together for a common enemy, and that never works. We have to, if we're going to coalesce, we're going to come together because we're going to fight something. We have to come together because we're trying to find a common humanity with everyone, right? If we come together solely to beat an enemy, then what ends up happening is we start finding flaws where none may exist. And sometimes we don't take intent into consideration. We're just looking at impact. So there's a problem with that, because I can tell you I can say something to you and it could be misconstrued a certain way, but if you're intelligent enough, then you can be able to decipher from what I said or what my intonations are that I meant nothing by it, and then we can have a discussion. But I think it gets problematic when we shy away from, especially those people out there that want to assimilate so much. They don't want to ripple. They don't want the waters to ripple too much. They want to assimilate so much that they don't speak out when a perceived wrong is happening. So what ends up happening? It keeps playing itself.
Or they think somebody else will talk, or somebody else will handle it.
Until it mushrooms into this is not really a serious issue.
Yeah.
So
I tell you what. Before
perception and perspective is the key.
Yeah.
We have that question for you too.
What's that?
And I would like to answer it as well. Like what subject matter or instance can you think of that you would choose to take a stance, voice your opinion?
Well, I'm always out there for the kids. The ass-steering people are the all crusty back people. Sorry.
The ass-steering.
Ass-steering. And the crusty back people.
Grandma, you heard that? Ass-steering.
I remember one time I went to a play and a lady was sitting in front of me, and the lady was probably about 80 or something, and she had some other friends with her, and she said, "Oh, those people in front there, so old and decrepit." But anyway, getting back to things, look, the one thing is to empower kids. That's the one thing that I would stand and die for. And as I say, I'm a village man.
Sorry.
Ass-steering. Yeah. But the empowering of kids and letting their voice be heard. I think even right now, I remember growing up, when we had a party, a gathering or whatsoever, the big people sit over here, all the youth here, boy, go over so. We don't go pick up this, pick up that. I like to see an interaction with the kids. I love to hear what they have to say, and I love to hear their views, and I like to empower them to let them know that they are intelligent and what they say does matter, what they do does matter, So that is the one thing that I will always stand behind and always fight for. And I don't really take, because everybody around our age is going to have their opinions, and I'm not really into swaying your opinions. We can have a conversation as a village man, we can have the conversation, which I love to have, but I'm not necessarily trying to sway anybody. I give you my opinions, you give me your opinions, and then you do what you have to, So that is it.
Thank you, Isabel, for joining us too.
Okay. Hi, Izzy. So for me, it starts with the children because they're our future generation. Well, it starts with my own family. Like, don't mess with my children or coming for your throat. But in all seriousness, I think education is a big key to the success of any nation, of any society. We truly have to educate the future leaders of our countries. And so it ties back into respecting the teacher and what they do, whether that be the parent teaching at home or an institution that you're going to use to help to educate, not brainwash, not indoctrinate, but truly educate our future. You know, and then also the environment. We want to we want to turn a blind eye that, you know, why do you think all these hurricanes and tsunamis and earthquakes? It's because of what we are doing to the earth. And while we're going to be dead and gone and might not care, we have offspring that we're leaving behind. We need to care about their future. You know, I care about any form of injustice. I hate to sit around and watch it. I can't. If it's blatant, and especially if it's against black and brown people, I'm sorry. I'm going to take a stance, and I'm going to. I'm not sorry. I am going to take a stance, and I'm going to speak up. You know, I just don't appreciate bullying, and I don't like people taking advantage. Especially when people are down and out. And I think it's our job as responsible adults, I think it's our job on the Caribbean Edge is to inform, to educate, and to help people just become better as a society, as a group of people.
I think sometimes it's really hard to take a stance. I mean, if you think about all the you know, some people take huge stances, especially if you're in the position to do that. But then there's stances you can take in your day-to-day life with the choices you make. Taking a stance at work against abuse to employees, or how we speak and respect each other on a daily basis. Showing that mutual respect is also very important. And like we've all said, you know, leaving this planet for our kids, what we're teaching our kids, what we're getting them involved in, showing them how important it is for them to take a stance with their bodies, their sports, their education, to be those well-rounded citizens that, you know.
Do you think that this younger generation, meaning like early 20s, do you think that they are they're pushing this agenda in a good way as far as speaking out against perceived injustices, or are they muddying the waters? Is it going too far? I mean, what role do you think they're playing? What do you think is happening right now?
I think it's broad. I think you have some that are muddying the waters. We saw from the Parkland shooting, some of those kids, hats off to them, take a stance against, you know, gun control. So I believe in that. But yeah, I think it goes both ways. Some are mucking the waters, and some are taking true stance for what they believe in.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, the Parkland shooting and any of the shootings we've had have been devastating and absolutely unfortunate. But it's refreshing to me, quite frankly, to have because back in our day, back to what you said, Keith, earlier, growing up, like, I remember asking my mother questions and it would be like, shut up. I remember making a decision as a teenager that I would never tell my child to shut up. I would actually answer their question. Because back in our day, the elders used to say, oh, go sit down over there, speak quiet, speak when you're spoken to. So it is, I find it, quite frankly, very refreshing that the young people have a voice and they have the gumption to speak up and to be heard. And some of them, quite frankly, are way more eloquent than some people that look orange to me.
So you asked the question. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, no, the reason I'm asking is because Jonathan Haidt came up with a book, The Coddling of the American Mind, and he speaks a lot on that, about the coddling of that certain generation, which has made them easily to feel victimized, right? And self-inflicted victimization, as he calls it. But there are instances where it comes close, if not right on the money, where that's taking place. Where in Canada, Jordan Peterson was speaking about this recently, about there was a mandate for them to refer to transgender people or people that refuse to be addressed as a certain pronoun, he or she, wanted to be addressed by Z or Z. It's like a myriad of different pronouns, and he was completely lashing out against it. And I have to tell you that I empathize with his stance completely, because no, what you're doing is you are we like to use this term political correctness, but I think it's gone past that. It's just like the book says, it's just cuddling. You know what I mean? If you cannot tell me that I need to use this pronoun for some, just like, and I'm not saying that I can't use one that exists, but no, you're going to force me out to remember this whole myriad of different pronouns.
That's taken it to the extreme.
But that's the thing. That's what's happening. I'll give you another example. This is a community college in Los Angeles where.
Can we say it?
Huh?
Can we say it?
No, I think that would be the meaning. No, but there's a college in Los Angeles where this student, I believe her name is Olivia, wrote an op-ed piece, I think, for the school or something, a paper that she turned in, and she was talking about how sometimes she feels separate and apart from the culture within the college. I don't remember the exact word she used in the paper, but felt separate and apart. And the dean, Mary Spellman, I think is her name, she responded to the student. She's a Latin girl, and she said that she felt marginalized, right? On campus, she didn't feel like she fit in, but she's always, she didn't feel comfortable. And the dean responded to her and said, when you get a chance, I'd really like to have a discussion with you, because I think that's something that we need to address. I'd love to hear your views on that, and how we can address that. And the ending of her letter, she said, we really want to address how those that don't necessarily fit into the CMC mold, she said, that how we can address that. And the student, took that letter and took it in the worst way possible, and what she heard, which is, I'm sure you can deduce what the word was that offended her, was the mold, right? And if you understand what the dean was trying to imply, she actually wanted to empathize. She wanted to move beyond that, move to fix that. She wanted to address what the student was feeling. The student didn't take it that way. So there was a rally. She posted it so everyone could see what the dean, how the dean responded, and they wouldn't stop until this dean was fired from a position. And this happens countless times.
Awesome, yeah.
The intent was not taken into consideration.
Right.
And there's a point where you go overboard, right?
And there are those instances that happen, of course.
What time is it?
Well, we do have to wrap it up.
We're going to wrap up in a second.
Any last minute thoughts?
I have one. After you.
Oh, you want your last minute?
No, but I'm
second
trying to talk. No, I
have a first. But what I wanted to say is on the same topic that you're talking about, it all comes down to views and opinions and perspective, especially perspective from where he's trying to solve this problem, and sometimes, as I said, you have to go with your opinion, and if it's going to get you fired, but you have to, that's almost like taking a stand then. And I've seen before where there are instances like those, and then later on, everybody come back, you know what, too late, but still. Exactly.
So in ending this episode, I would like to send a message to those of you who are burning and tearing up your Nike gear. There are people out there suffering from sickle cell that could use your clothes. There are people suffering from cancer. There are all these associations out there that if I don't want to something, then we say Nike. Donate it to a good cause. There's the SOS orphanage in Jamaica. There are kids and children and people without clothing and shelter. And you've already paid good hard-earned money for it. So if you cannot and you hate to see that swoosh, just pack it up in a box and send it off to a good cause.
Okay, so I want to thank all our viewers that have chimed in. Thank you, Cheryl Ann, and yes, we do know that you're opinionated and very passionate about, especially the tennis match with Serena. Isabel Spalding, thank you for tuning in. Garfield, I know you made some comments, and Brian and Fabian, so thank everybody for always making comments, whether we're live or not. No matter what side of the fence you stand on for either Colin or Serena, just know they're taking a stance for what they believe in.
And keep the conversation going.
Keep the conversation going. Be mindful when taking stands because we don't want someone to go lose their job because they're taking
Or be
a
respectful.
stand.
Be
But
respectful.
be
You can take a respectful
respectful.
stance.
Exactly.
You don't have to be disrespectful.
So Sean, anything else?
Yeah. Don't boo. Vote.
Go
Vote.
out and vote.
Please. Please.
Make a difference because
Vote.
your voice is in your vote.
So
right?
speaking of voting, tell them more, Sean. We're planning
We're
to do
planning to-
not where.
So we're keep an ear out. We will definitely let you know, but we're planning on doing an event before the November election that is going to be a voting rally where people can get educated on where they can vote. It's just it's to raise awareness is really what we're trying to do. Raise awareness of the impact of voting because your vote actually does count regardless of what you think about the electoral process. It does count, especially in midterm elections. This is vitally important. If you're complaining about your what's happening in your neighborhood, it doesn't even have to be federal. Just what's happening in your area, what's happening in your city, what's happening in your the council, your commission.
The schools,
Vote.
Yes.
Don't cost them. Vote. I'm begging them.
Can I say they're now people seem to feel left out sometimes because well they have an alien card or they're here for a few years working on a contract or something and they feel that they don't have a right. No, they can't vote, but they can go out in crowds and they can support because they also have an opinion. If they've
Yes.
been here for 20 years, 30 years, whatsoever, and they can't vote, they can still go out and support because that drive help even when they speak to someone who can vote. That drive still tell a person, look, wow, there are so many
People care.
And especially, you know what? Especially if you have 20 people sitting down to this one person and say, you look, you can't vote.
Yeah.
I can't even vote. And you have the opportunity and
Speaking of voting, we were black and brown people were only allowed to vote in 1968. That was just the other day. So exercise your right. And just in closing, for those of you in the path of the hurricane, South Carolina, the Caribbean, just take warning. Our thoughts are with you. But you know, it's actually a real issue with ICE. There are people in South Carolina, the undocumented people in these trailer homes are very afraid to even leave because they're so in fear of being deported that they're willing to risk their safety. It's a real issue, and I can't think of any kind of solution now, but it's actually heartbreaking.
So be safe, and thank you for joining another episode of the Caribbean Edge. Go out and vote.
Remember to like, subscribe, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. See you next week.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
it takes us a while to click off the thing then. I click it off now.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Because I want to chat about so yeah.